So today we're going to be talking about building your wellness business plan, when to be strategic and when to be tactical. This is a little bit different from some of the other presentations that we did, because normally it's at a very high level that we're going to talk about this. But what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be drilling down into some very, very specific items that are designed to help you kind of take another look at what you're doing and reassessing and figuring out if you have some opportunities to improve the process and to move forward. So to get started, I am going to start with a very, very deep and philosophical question, because we all want everybody thinking. So here we go. The chicken or the egg? That is the burning question of the day. It's an age-old debate. Some people say chicken, some people say egg. But we're going to look how that actually applies when we're dealing with wellness strategy and tactics. So I'm going to use this cartoon. It's a basic. It's not specific to wellness, but you'll get the point. The gentleman says, "What's the big campaign idea?" The marketing guy has to be a marketing guy. We're going to go digital, Facebook, YouTube, a mobile app, Pinterest, and then he asks the critical question, what are we going to do in all those channels? Marketing guy says, I don't know. We'll figure it out later. So now we're back to the chicken and the egg. This one is going to be very wellness specific. Same CEO, same marketing guy. I want to start a wellness program. He's all excited now. We're going to do raffles, gift cards, biometrics, a mobile app, and step challenges. And then here again comes the big question. So how are we going to measure success and value? Marketing guy says, I don't know. We'll figure it out later. So therein lies the problem, because this often debated question has never been more relevant than while creating your wellness business plan. Because a lot of times, if you're focused on the tactical implementation of the stuff, all that thought process behind it doesn't happen until later, and then you find you're so far down the road that it's really hard to take that time to take a look at it. Also, just so you know, during this presentation, I am going to be giving everybody occasional pop quizzes, and just kind of enter your answers into the Q&A. Just curious to see who gets what. So every action, Sir Isaac Newton, has an equal and opposite reaction. And it's never been more true when we're talking about strategy and tactics. And we're going to look at some keywords. We're going to compare them so we can kind of start to see the difference between the two. Strategic keyword is intent. The tactical is action. Vision versus actualization. Why, what, and who versus when, where, and how. Thinking and direction versus actions and implementation. Align with the goals and objectives. Align with the strategy. That's the role of the tactics. Future versus day-to-day execution. Outward perspective versus inward perspective. Formed by leaders, formed by managers. Effectiveness and efficiency. Establish metrics, evaluate metrics. Not focused on execution, focused on timelines and execution. And the last one is probably the most defining of these two different approaches. Strategy or a strategic approach is intangible. Tactical or tactics is tangible. So when we go and we dig into this and we talk about strategy, your approach to strategy needs to be completely different than your approach with tactics. Because if you try to think of both at the same time, you're going to get distracted from getting the most out of each. So, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And there's a reason that there's a little break in between your strategic approach and your tactical approach, because we all know this. You plan a communication campaign, you plan an event, you have all this stuff strategically figured out, you implement the tactical plan that was based off of your strategic point of view, and then the day of, things don't go exactly as planned. It's just the way it is. So there has to be this middle section here to be able to adapt and to be able to do it on the fly without sacrificing the integrity of the strategic vision or the direction of the tactical execution. And these are where we go back, take a step back, and we ask questions. We review what we did. We revise what didn't work, and we come up with something else. We reassess our goals and objectives. We reevaluate how we implemented that solution. We re-examine most of our strategies. We reconsider, we refocus, and this is probably the scariest re on the list. We relaunch. Relaunching is not a bad word. So say you launched a wellness plan, you're 2 years into it, you're not seeing the results that you want. You have a decision. Do we just keep pressing forward because we knew that our strategic vision was sound and our tactical execution was on point? Or do we take a step back in between year 2 and year 3 and do all the re's here and do a relaunch of the program so that you can start to realign your new strategic vision with your new tactical objectives? I like to call this period of time 0 year. Some of you may have heard me say that before. 0 year is what happens before you launch a wellness program. Because once you launch, as I mentioned earlier, you're sprinting and you're running and you don't have as much time to focus on the strategy because you're so busy focused on the tactical execution. Mathematicians have an interesting way of describing the number 0, is that it represents nothing, but it delivers everything. So when you're in 0 year, you're in this safe space where no idea is a bad idea, and you can just brainstorm and dump things out and just put them in the list of things that you'd want to do, create that wish list. And there are reasons and things that you need to do. And when you're going into 0 year, again, this is your chance to think big. And while you may think, well, I know what we want to start thinking about. We want to start thinking about biometrics, and we want to start thinking about health assessments and challenges and videos and quizzes and all these other things. There are some steps that need to happen at the base level of building a wellness business plan that are important, and they inform every decision that you make after that. First one is the big picture. Start brainstorming at a macro level. Don't get lost in the minutia of building a wellness business plan. This is not your time to think, okay, what time of the year are we going to have the biometric screenings? How are we going to set up the tables? What are we going to do? When are we going to hold the challenges? That's not your job right now. Anything in blue here is a strategic approach. This is big picture, 0 year. These are intangibles. We're not going tangible yet. Instead, define the broader strokes of what you are trying to accomplish as a community. Again, not talking about programs or services or vendors. We're talking about what are you trying to accomplish as a company, as a community. Make sure that you can articulate your wellness point of view. What I mean by this is every organization is different. I did a wellness program for a big company up in New York, and we were going through this process with them. And I said, so what's your wellness point of view? They said, look, we tell them what to do and they do it. Kind of looked at them and they said, and I dug a little bit deeper, and that's the kind of organization that it was. That was the relationship that they had with their employee population, and it actually worked for them. Now, there are some people who will say, you know what, I don't want to get into all the biometrics and this. I don't want them to feel like I'm Big Brother. I want to offer them health and wellness activities and just kind of focus on that level. Again, no wrong answers here, but it's important that you know who you are, because that's going to affect what kind of results and metrics and measurements you can get later on. And then you also have another point of view, which is basically, why should I worry about them, about whether they're well or not? It's their problem. They'll figure it out. Again, no wrong answers, but it sets the stage for how you're going to move forward as an organization and how far you're willing to go with your wellness. You want to explore your point of view as it reflects on your organizational employee relationship. As you're going through this, you may realize that, this is our current relationship, but I think we need to make some changes, and this may be a new opportunity for us to change that perception and to approach it in a little bit of a different way. So the big picture, start brainstorming at the macro level and don't get lost in the minutia. Your philosophy has a lot to do with you as an organization and your wellness program, because your wellness experience you provide to your population should feel authentic. A wellness program is not an isolated benefit provided to your population. It's not separate from your benefit plan. It's not separate from your culture. It's a part of your culture. It needs to be deeply rooted as a defining component of your culture. A wellness program should be sustainable and holistic. And this can only be accomplished with careful thought and a multi-year vision and the focus to meet this challenge. So philosophy, your population's wellness experience should be authentic. I'll give you a simple example. You launch a program, you want people to participate in these challenges, you want people to do the steps, and you want them to do the biometrics and the HRA, yet your company policy says you can't do any of that while you're at work. Or we don't provide you, I know you all work in the warehouse, we're not going to provide you with a computer terminal to get on and watch these videos. So you want to watch how what you do and what you say are balanced out in the perception of your employees. Next, we move up to value. You want to articulate the DNA of how you define success in your organizations. Again, it's good to set those expectations. Incorporate your wellness program into your organization's defining principles. Ingrain your wellness program into your organization's culture. And this last one is critically important. Ensure all levels of management understand and promote the importance and impact your wellness program has on the employee experience. So why is this important? Because we have you sitting there in the HR department trying to launch out this wellness program, potentially to separate locations spread out across the country. It can't be all on you. You need that level of support, and you also need management to understand that this is not just a thing. This is now part of our culture. This is an important part of who we are, and you want to make sure that they support that. So when we look at values, articulating the DNA of how you define success in your organization. Then we have mission. What is your mission? If somebody said, what's the mission of your wellness program? Engage employees as partners in their health and well-being, because you don't want them to feel like I checked the box and I can forget about wellness as soon as the program is over. You want to empower employees through education and lifestyle skills that enable them to maintain or improve their quality of life. You want to positively affect employee morale and job satisfaction, which equates to your ability to attract and retain employees. You want to create a resilient employee who can effectively cope well under pressure. This is a newer term that's been coming out, but it's especially with COVID and the challenges faced there and working remotely, that resilience is something that's coming more and more to the fore, because it has to do with your intestinal fortitude, your ability to emotionally handle things, and to still move forward in a productive way. You also want to make healthy choices the easy choice. People want to do some work, but they don't want to do too much work. So you need to, that's why we have a multi-year strategy, so we can bring this along on an easy pace. Engage employees as partners in their health and well-being. And the last one is the brand. Create an easily identifiable visual identity, because with everything else coming out from the company, you want to make sure that this stands out. Use keywords and imagery that reflect the program's authenticity. Use your brand consistently. Once you have a brand, keep on track with that. If you start to change it and move it away, people aren't going to connect the dots and realize that it's part of the wellness program. Deliver on the intent and promise of your wellness brand's mission. Refer to that as often as you need to. Ensure communications include simple, easy, and clear action items. Because I can promise you, they're not going to possibly get it the first time or the second time. It's a constant drip of communications over time that are going to get their attention. One and done will not get the job done. Promise on the intent, deliver on the intent and promise of your wellness brand's mission. So let's dive into specifically what it means to be a strategic thinker in 0 year. Again, intangible. We're talking about the why, we're talking about the what, we're talking about the who. First burning question to ask and answer is, why do we need wellness? Is it because of increased medical costs? Is it increased pharmacy costs, costly benefit utilization? That means people not using their benefits plans wisely. Increased absenteeism, extended short and long-term disability, decreased retention, not being able to pull new, whatever it is, not differentiating yourself in the marketplace, you want to figure out the why for the wellness. Because again, that's going to drive all the decisions that you make after that. The next one is, what do we want to measure? Critically important. Think about it now. Get a baseline. Participation, engagement, incentives, metric-bearing activity, the value of investment, not to be confused with return on investment. These are soft dollars that show progress in the early years of a wellness business plan. The return on investment, which are the hard dollars returns, which is dictated by your funding arrangement and the access that you have to data and metrics. Risk stratification, low risk, at risk, high risk. Preventive care utilization, annual physical disability management, biometrics, health assessment, and the list can go on. What needs to be in place? We have two what's here. Executive C-suite support has to happen because you're going to be potentially asking for money. They're going to want to see your business plan. You're going to want them to sell. You want them sold on the idea because you need them to support the idea. Because if C-suite and the executives don't support it, every other manager underneath them more than likely is going to say, you know, this isn't that important to my boss, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You want to engage managers, and we talked about why that's important. Write out the strategic wellness plan. Have a wellness budget, either internally or through your carrier. Eventually, get a wellness committee. This way it makes it an easier burden for the HR department to bear. Are you going to have tobacco use policies, tobacco cessation programs, incorporating dimensions of well-being, social, emotional, physical, environmental, occupational, spiritual, nutritional, and things like that? Do we want to integrate coaching? Do we want lifestyle management, which are challenges and videos and quizzes and articles and things of that nature? Do we need to engage with a third-party wellness partner? These are all things you want to think about. And then we finally get to the who. Do we want it to be employees on plan? Do we want it to be spouses on plan? Employees not on plan? Do we need to include some of the retirees who are still on one way or another plan? Do we eventually want to include dependents 18 plus on the plan? I had one client who opened it open to the elderly family members of employees on plan. Again, it was part of their culture. So they wrapped their arms around everybody when they did that. And there are many, many other things that we can take a look at when we're being strategic in 0 year. So now let's see what a tactical execution looks like in 0 year. This is where we're going to look at how, where, and when. These are action items. These are not intangible. These are very tangible steps that we're going to take to get from point A to point B. How are we going to engage participants? This is a deep conversation. Messaging from senior leaders, make communication simple, easy, and clear. Focus on privacy and confidentiality because that's a big issue. Making it a two-way conversation. Keep programs relevant. Use registration raffles, multiple channels of choice, company-wide meetings, manager meetings, participation during work hours, computer access in the workplace, share aggregate data, employee testimonials, peer recognition, wellness ambassadors at each location. Again, short list, but that's the highlights. where do we direct our population to engage? This is probably one of the most important aspects that you're going to look at. Whether it's the carrier wellness portal, whether it's a third-party wellness portal, it's great if you have a dedicated wellness program email box. Some people send them to the company intranet if it's robust enough. Internal collaboration tools, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Workplace by Facebook, or having a dedicated mobile marketing site. But you want to figure out those lines of communication early on and communicate them clearly to your participants. And then we get to the win. We're finally at the win. It's like at the end of strategy was who? At the end of the tactical execution is when. And this is going to depend completely on your organization. Good rule of thumb I always say is block out 2 months around open enrollment. Because when open enrollment comes, you want people to be decision making. You don't want them to have to split their focus. So that becomes a little bit of a dead zone. Identify and avoid your company's busy season. Everybody has it. We wouldn't want to launch a wellness program in the middle of tax season at an accounting firm. You're not going to get anybody paying attention. You want to avoid prime vacation months. And July, August, probably not going to have too many people in or really be able to get their attention. And you also have people who are getting their kids ready for school in August so that they can go in September, and there's all that craziness going on. Launch your wellness program when you know you have their full attention. Pick that time and pick that time to launch. Now, after we've gone through all this and we talked about all this strategy, and we talked about all of these tactics, you have this massive list in your head of questions you need to ask yourself. Here's the good thing that you need to know. Don't let your eyes become bigger than your stomach. So if our little dog here is the HR manager, you never want your wellness program to feel like this massive bone. This is why we have a multi-year approach. So all those ideas that you put together in your 0-year strategic brainstorming session don't have to happen all at once. That's food that you can use over multiple years to slowly roll that out. So you don't want to feel that pressure. And from a tactical point of view, there were coaching, there were challenges, there were all these things on there. Again, you have multiple years. So don't try to do it all at once. Because if this little doggy turns into your employee and you try to do all of that at once, they're going to say, this wellness program is too big for me. It's taking up too much of my time. It's too complicated. I don't understand what they're asking for. You're going to not have the participation and engagement that you would have liked. And the other good news is this. We had talked about this when we had that purple section between strategy and tactics. If you do start moving through, one of the things that we want to watch is making sure that you keep your wellness program pitch perfect. And part of that is being able to identify whether or not you have a one-note wellness program. And after a couple years of going through this, you may start to feel that way because you're going to look at your participation, which are the number of eligible participants enrolled in the wellness program. And you're going to say, our numbers are dropping. They're not moving in the right direction. And then you're going to look at engagement, the number of eligible participants engaged in the wellness program. Those numbers are dropping. And then you look at incentives, the number of eligible participants earning a wellness incentive. It's going down. People are starting the program, but they're not working all the way through it to actually earn that incentive. And then we have metrics, the number of eligible participants providing measurable results, which is one of the things that, depending on your wellness point of view, you really want to have. And if the people are not going through and fully completing the health risk assessment and the biometrics and the tobacco affidavit and the body mass index and all of those things, the preventive care screenings, it's a good sign that there are changes that need to be made. Which again, There is no such thing as bad metrics. Metrics are metrics. They're neutral. But they can help you inform decisions so that if you start to see things trending not the way you want them, you go back to 0 year. 0 year does not represent 12 months. 0 year isn't limited to the beginning of a wellness program. 0 year is your chance to reset and relook at what you're doing. 0 year represents nothing and delivers everything. So it's your chance to say, you know what? Let's break it all down. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what changes we need to make. And then we have that last reword where we need to relaunch. We need to reposition ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're doing it to improve the process. So, one note, and this is where some of the quizzes are going to come up, so be ready to enter into your Q&A. What does it mean to have a one-note campaign, and what are things that you can do to get it away from there? It's funny, when I was creating this, I went online and I Googled one-note songs, and a lot of them came up, and a lot of them I actually liked. But again, one note, one note, one note, you keep getting that repetitive same note over time. Eventually, it's going to get a little bit boring. So, one moment in time, your first quiz. Who sang the song? Enter it into your Q&A. You have time. So, what is the purpose of a campaign? The campaign is to provide you with a clear roadmap for your wellness campaign timeline from start to finish. You're memorializing what it is that you want to do. To hold all parties accountable for ensuring that the campaign deliverables are executed on time. To ensure that all stakeholders understand the expectations of the campaign. That goes all the way up to your C-suite. There we go. We got a lot of Whitney Houstons coming in. Thank you. But this goes to the C-suite. Your C-suite has to understand what your goals are, which is why it's so important to have that wellness business plan in an executive summary for them, that they can understand what it is we're trying to accomplish, to ensure that deadlines are not missed, and to reduce the stress of answering that terrible, terrible question, what are we going to do next month 12 times a year? You never want to put yourself in that position. For the wellness program coming, you want to know before you pull that trigger and get people signing up, we have our plan. All we have to do now is work the plan and move forward. The value in that is it provides a visual representation to ensure you are not over or under communicating. It's possible to do both. If you over communicate, people zone out. And again, this is specific for each organization. I've had some clients who will say to me with their wellness plans, you know, we got to cut back on this. They don't want to see as much. And I'm like, good, as long as they're getting the message. And I've had some where we have to hit them a little bit more, even if it's just for a short amount of time. The campaign allows you to pre-plan your campaign and avoid, again, holidays, company business season, open enrollment. Allows you to pre-plan your campaign to leverage company-wide events. If you have company-wide meetings, that's a great time to not only promote the wellness program, but maybe have some recognition going on there. Congratulations to so-and-so who did this many steps, or congratulations to everyone who completed their health profile or earned a certain reward. Or even at holiday parties, team meetings, company picnics. Hopefully we'll get back to those at some point. But use those, because those represent your culture right there. So it's a good way to integrate that in. A campaign allows you to coordinate with other departments in your organization to ensure that your campaign is not interfering, I like to say tripping over, other departments' communications. People can only handle so many communications. You want to make sure that you're not fighting against each other with getting the employee's attention. So if we were to look at that and say, what we just talked about is a 1 to 2 dimensional campaign approach. Let's see what we can possibly do to turn that into something a little bit more 3-dimensional. Who here knows Shark Week? Most people know Shark Week. There are some people who look forward to Shark Week every year. That may be the only time they go to the Discovery Channel just to see Shark Week. But the Discovery Channel planted a flag and said, every year we're going to have Shark Week. And people come, and they talk about it, and they think about it, and they look forward to it. So what if we used Shark Weeks as focus events that act as campaign milestones? Now, I'm not saying you do Shark Week, but this is the concept of Shark Week. Unless your people are really into sharks, then you can do Shark Week. These milestones are there to create excitement, renew enthusiasm for your campaign. Make it an event. Food, extra points, raffle prizes, contests, or program participant team recognition. Some people will put their Shark Week at the beginning of the program. That week becomes an event. Or some people may put it in the middle of the wellness program, where they spend a little bit of their wellness dollars and they really re-energize people for the wellness program. Or some people will do it near the end because, to be honest, the healthy people get the wellness program completed up front. Everybody else, right at the end, they rush to get all their points in and get it done. This is what a memorialized timeline looks like. Anything in gray are communications that need to go out. So you can see we're not over inundating with communications. These purple lines, this client offered online yoga workshops. They started a challenge, and they had everyday wellness quizzes out there for their participants to engage in. Again, there are only 2 or 3 actual communications, but we knew what we needed to schedule, how we needed to track it, and everything is laid out right in front of you. So there are no questions. OneNote metrics. Again, measurements. 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, and what does a 3-dimensional metric look like? All right, your next quiz. The times they are a-changin'. Who sang that? All right, I'll give you time to think. So the purpose of metrics, because metrics are all about change, going up, going down, staying the same, to provide metrics that clearly define the overall health of your organization's based on a measurable, repeatable data set. Being objective, not subjective, but objective. Oh, we have a lot of no ideas. Think about it. Try not to Google it. Not a current song. To provide metrics that allow companies. Oh, we got a Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's coming in. It's okay if somebody else sang it. We will take alternates from the original. To provide metrics that allow companies to measure their value of investment in the wellness program. That's participation based. To provide metrics that allow companies to measure the return on investment in the wellness program. Outcome based. To validate the costs of the wellness program and provide a quantifiable argument as to why a continued investment is warranted. Think of your chief financial officer and having this conversation with them. You want to have facts and metrics you can share. The value, it allows you to stratify risks, allows you to identify specific chronic conditions prevalent in your company, allows you to target communications and programs that directly affect the health and quality of life of your population, and allows you to provide reasonable alternatives for the most prevalent chronic conditions in your organization. So what are some 3-dimensional solutions or options for what we're looking at here? What other things can you look at? Because especially once you get into the ROI area, you're going to go for the low-hanging fruit. Biometric results, preventive care visits, health assessments, things like that. But when you really want to dig down in the data, you want to look obviously at wellness care utilization, well visit completions, total health assessment completions. Those are given. Chronic illness engagement, gaps in care for hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, and obesity. A risk cluster analysis, low to no risk, biometric risk taking, and psychological. Top therapeutic class trends analysis. And believe it or not, hospital admissions, bed days, and average length of stay. In the RAND study performed on PepsiCo's company, targeting the hospital admissions and bed days and average lengths of stay, turning that trend, saved them millions of dollars. So again, ROI is specific to every organization, but it's made up of many, many different things. And you're looking at this, you're saying that all sounds great, but I'm fully insured, I'm community rated, we don't have a lot of things available to us, we're not going to get the reporting. That's why it's important to set the expectations as part of your strategy about what you can actually expect to measure with your wellness program. So up here, using the Rand Corporation PepsiCo study as an example, is the return on investment that they saw from a 10-year wellness program. But it's important to take a look at yourself from a strategy base. If you're only going to have a participation-based strategy, which means I got my biometrics, I get points. Outcome-based strategy, where you say you got your biometrics, your healthcare is out of range, you need to do X, Y, Z to earn those points. You're going to see a higher return for that. When we look at wellness or well-being, education, activities, steps, nutrition, stress management, financial, community, self-driven coaching, they don't really move the needle as far as a hard dollar return on investment. But what the PepsiCo study found was that people who participated in wellness activities were more likely to engage in disease management activities, which are the ones that really drive the solid ROI. And just so you can kind of shoot for the types of metrics that you want to see, you want to be able to measure year over year risk stratification, biometric results, excess illness days, and excess medical costs due to health risks. That's the top tier of being able to measure with a full data set. So one note, wellness activities. All right, next quiz coming up. Let's get physical. Who sang that? So, wellness activities. Purpose: to provide a broad mix of wellness activities that can allow participants to realize their own personal path to health and well-being. To provide an even distribution of lifestyle management, wellness, alongside metric-bearing activities, disease management. Oh, we got Sheena. We got Olivia Newton-John. There we go. To drive participants to become exposed and educated about a variety of health and well-being concepts that can have a significant impact on their quality of life. To target unhealthy habits that are directly impacting healthcare costs. So what's the value of these wellness activities? Provides a strong balance between education, awareness, and activity, a broad-based healthcare strategy. Encourages participants to not put off important preventive care screenings. It reminds them that they're there. Provides a catalyst for participants to engage with their primary care physician, which is one of the ultimate goals of a wellness program. Broadens participants' concept of wellness and how each health risk can negatively be impacted by their quality of life. And a healthier workforce tends to be a higher performing workforce. So what's the third dimension to that? Focusing on, especially in the days of the pandemic, stress and emotional well-being. We talked about this, resilience and things like that. Because studies have shown, references are down the bottom, that lost productivity costs are 2.3 times higher than medical and pharmacy costs. And that companies that support workplace health have a greater percentage of employees at work every day. People are stressed about money, finances, work-related stress, and family health and responsibilities and health concerns. And disengaged workers, these are people who have gone beyond stress, had higher absenteeism, more accidents, more errors, and more defects at work. So here's just a quick snapshot of the variety of wellness activities beyond blood and broccoli, the biometrics and the HRA, that you can include as part of your wellness program. All right, one note points, wellness points, setting up that scoring system in there. Here's your next quiz. Don't stop believing. Don't say glee. All right, so the purpose of the points is to provide participants with points that they can accrue to reach a wellness goal, to provide a level of gamification, I still don't believe that's a word. And competition, both personally and between peers, about who can earn the most points. Journey. All right, we got Journey. We got a bunch of 80s kids in here, right there with you. To create a point structure that will drive participants to complete wellness activities so you can get the metrics that you need. Oh, we got some eagles in there. To subliminally create a connection between the points and the value of the activity. I've had people email me and say, well, why does this many points and this that many points? So they're looking at that. They connect with the value of the points with the value of the activity. So what's the value? Provides participants with the opportunity to create a personal path to health and well-being. They can accrue their points any way they want, as long as they hit that goal. Provides a visual representation of the participant's effort and allows participants to engage in new wellness activities that they had yet to explore. Somebody may need some points just to finish out the year and they hadn't done any of the articles or videos and quizzes. They do the article, the quiz, maybe they learn a little bit more in the process. So 3 dimensions. Change up your point structure every year. Again, 1 note, over and over and over, so that you slowly change the focus of your wellness program from wellness to disease management over time. When companies create a team environment, the accrual of points can become a fun competitive experience. Don't release all the wellness activities at once. So say you had 4 articles and quizzes that you were going to do. Maybe just release them 1 a quarter. It drives people back to the portal to engage. Make it easy and clear to employees how to earn points and access the resources that they need. So if we were going to take a look at a multi-year, this is going to come up a lot. Incentive strategy. Year 1, 50, 25, 25, 20. We just hit the basic blocking and tackling. This red line represents 100 points. Next year, the value for the blue block goes down. Annual physicals gets included with that, but we introduce preventive care. We have lifestyle points reduced, tobacco affidavit, we add education. We go to year 3. Year 3 is typically the end of a participation-based strategy, starting to look at an outcome-based strategy. So we maintain the 40 points in blue, we up the points for preventive care, lifestyle is there, but things like the tobacco affidavit and education get reduced in points. These are low-hanging fruit, and we add a community category. And then once we start to begin that 3-year stretch into an outcome-based solution, we reduce the points even further, not because it's not as important, but because by this point they should just know that they have to do it. Preventive care, lifestyle, this is where we might start to include coaching or an outcome-based approach. Tobacco, education, community. You can see how it grows over time, how you reallocate these points to drive behavior. All right, 1 note incentives. Here's next quiz. You've lost that love and feeling. Year 1, you give somebody a gift card as a reward. They are so excited. Year 2, you give them the same gift card. They're still happy. I got a gift card. I'm excited. Year 3, they got a smile that's like, okay, I got the same gift card again. Year 4, they're like, a gift card again? And then year 5, they're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Oh, we got the Righteous Brothers. Looks like we're on the right track there. So over time, any incentive will lose its luster. This 1 note approach isn't necessarily going to move the needle. And I'm not just picking on gift cards. This goes for premium incentives, HSA contributions, HRA contributions. You need to get out of that 1 note approach. So the purpose, to encourage participants to adopt healthy behaviors, to encourage participants to maintain healthy behaviors, to connect your wellness program more closely with your healthcare benefits. The value of the incentive provides the participant, again, to create that personal path. When we look at through the 3rd dimension, though, what we want to look at is expand on the idea of just offering an end-of-program reward. People have to wait 9 months, 12 months to get that reward. Offer quarterly rewards or monthly raffle prize drawings. Hold raffle prize drawings for activity challenges. Implement a company-wide participation tied to increased incentive for all participants. We get 75% participation, the incentive doubles. Create teams-based wellness programs, and frequent recognition for teams or individuals goes a long way. So you have this chart here that gives you an idea of the types of incentives that you can offer and what those standalone incentives are going to offer you as far as participation. If you continue to offer gift cards, raffle prizes, and recognition, you're going to have a hard time moving up to the 50%, 65%, 80%, 90% bracket. The last thing we're going to look at is the efficient use of wellness dollars. There's a lot of good information here for you to take a look at, strategies about why you should or should not use certain incentive strategies, how to turn that tide, and also the key part here is ensure that the effort is equal to the incentive. For example, simply asking your participants to get a biometric screening is not worth a $600 annual discount. What happens when you want them to do more? You need to leave yourself some latitude to increase that incentive based upon the increased activity that you're asking your participants to do. Last one, OneNote lifestyle. Quiz clue coming up. Living on a prayer. Just think New Jersey. Lifestyle is to engage participants in multiple aspects of health and well-being. To address personal challenges, physical, social, financial, occupational, environmental, spiritual, nutritional, and emotional, that can negatively impact their quality of life. There you go, John Bon Jovi. That's what we're talking about. Big hair. Not anymore. To help drive engagement in metric-bearing activity provided by a company's wellness program. But what's the value of it? Because again, we looked at this when we were looking at the VOI, ROI continuum, that these wellness lifestyle activities maybe only drive 50 cents out of a $3.80 return on investment. But again, they're important to get people engaged in what I like to call the fun stuff, to complete the other activities, which are going to be the metric-bearing activities. They changed the focus of a blood and broccoli wellness program into a holistic, diverse, and inclusive opportunity for participants to improve their health and well-being. I don't know about any of you, but planning a wedding, planning vacation, trying to get that first student loan done, trying to get a mortgage on a house, having a legal issue, that can be really draining. And you don't turn it off when you come to work. And it creates stress and it creates distractions. And a standalone EAP is only going to solve part of those problems. So really providing as part of your lifestyle solutions real resources for people to engage in either educationally or from a coaching perspective are going to go a long way to help keep them focused and energized at work. Lifestyle programs Lifestyle programs help the wellness program integrate itself into the company culture and create a greater sense of community, creates a great benefit to promote when attracting and retaining employees, helps to energize and motivate participants and improve morale. So from a third dimension, what are we talking about? Focus on mindfulness, focus on team-based activities, promote community involvement in charitable activities. Again, is that going to directly impact your bottom line? Probably not. But is it going to increase the sense of community, the esprit de corps, and the morale within the organization and make people more energized to come to work? Yes, it will. That's why these are called soft dollars. Poll your employees to understand what they are passionate about and implement opportunities to support those initiatives over time. Include your participants in brainstorming sessions to get some fresh new ideas and expand the scope and focus of your wellness offerings. Now, let me be clear. Brainstorming is different than the decision makers who decide as part of the strategy what they're going to tactically implement. Having a new well of ideas is always a good thing to have, and it makes people feel included in the process. So, creating your own wellness symphony. And this is the final quiz of the day. And this is going to be a tough one. So I want you to think about this. As I build this slide, I want you to tell me what song it is. All right, here we go. So we have our strategy. The strategy forms the foundation for everything that we're going to do with the wellness program. It's our long vision. If we look at these measures as quarters, each of these measures equals 1/4 of your wellness program. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. The next thing are the tactics, our tactical approach, our execution, our active part of this. They set the tempo, they set the tone. Critical part needs to be there. Next up, we have the campaign itself, and you can see on the bottom baseline of this music, the campaign forms the foundation that everything else is going to be built upon. It is not Baby Got Back. Good guess, though. Everything that we're going to do is based off of that. Next up, we have the metrics, how we're going to measure success. We're looking at all of these notes. These are the metrics that we consistently measure throughout the program. Right now, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty basic. Thought to keep in mind is this. Anybody who's ever played a piano, anybody who's ever done anything like that, you know that while you may have multiple octaves on the piano, you're really only dealing with 8 notes. But it's what you do with those 8 notes that really change how people receive the music and how they connect with it. The same thing with wellness. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be well executed. So the next part are the activities, your wellness activities. They're sprinkled throughout, and people can follow along, and they can participate them during the program. And then we have the points up top here. This is how people are going to be earning their incentives right here. And then we have the incentives themselves, these little rests that we have in here that are part of the program, and they get merged into the overall melody that you're creating with your wellness program. And then the last piece is lifestyle. Again, these are integrated sporadically throughout, but they're a very important part of the program. And if we look at this completed music, and we see that in the basic start of it, and how over time it gets richer, it gets fuller, it creates larger notes, larger melodies that people follow. But what happened if we stopped looking at this as 1 year, and we started looking at this as year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4 of a wellness program? In this first year, you start very basic. And then the next year, you add in some additional notes. And then the next year, you add in some more notes. And then the fourth year, you add in some more notes. So that it's a logical way for the music to progress. Same thing with your wellness program. Typically, year 1 is a participation-based strategy, followed into year 2 and year 3. Your goal by the 3rd year of a participation strategy is to get at least 75% participation. Because ideally, if this is what your organization wants to accomplish, you're going to be moving into a 3-year, multi-year outcome-based strategy as we move forward. Thank you very much for attending. Again, if you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A. I know that Heather will be working tomorrow morning to be sending out the recordings and to sending out the copies of the presentation. And if you have any questions, Pachelbel's Canon. There you go, Mark Ripple. Yes, one of my favorite pieces of music. Simple melody that just builds over time. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at Corporate Synergies. All right. Well, thank you very much, and have a great day.